Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 102.6. It is super cold here in the dungeon, so I will try to make this very short and sweet. We are going to make a Marini cane today, and the cane is just as beautiful as the Marini that it produces. I have about 12 color rods of transparent that I'm going to use for this cane. It's actually really simple to make, no matter how many colors you add to it. So without further ado, let's get right into this. And as always, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, we're going to start this out with the Marini cane, and I'm going to use for the core the Effetri White 204. It's my favorite white to use, and I'm just going to spend a little bit of time melting it down into a nice wad of or a nice ball of color here. And once I get to a good decent size, I am going to go ahead and punty up one end. And remember, this is just the core. We're going to add quite a bit more glass on top of this, so you don't want this too big. So I'm just going to finish adding that white. And yes, you can use any mandrel that you have in substitute as a punty. All of my punties started out as mandrels. I just so happened to see these punty rods online with the wooden handles and thought they'd be really nice to use. And I do enjoy them. I got them from France Art Glass. So after I have added all my white, I rolled it out so I have a nice even area to lay all of the color down. And I did not put the color in the description because I didn't have the names of all of them, but they are 12 just random transparent colors that I had. I just grabbed as many as I could, hoping that they would all fit around this bundle. And they did, so I was happy. But either way, I wanted to make sure that I added 2 layers of each color, because when the cane is pulled out, the colors will seem, or they will be very, very muted and a lot softer than they look here. And there is no rhyme or reason on the placement of these colors. I just put them down on the table and picked the first one up and continued from there. A couple more to lay down here. I'm glad I was able to add all 12, but on further thinking on this, I could have added just a few transparent colors in the stripes. I didn't necessarily have to have a different color every time. So get creative with this cane. You can make it so many different ways, and it should look beautiful every time. There's our last color, and all right, we made it all the way around. So now what I want to do is have a white stringer rod ready to go. But before I apply it, I want to smooth everything down and pull the edges of the color at the bottom towards the mandrel, just to kind of clean everything up down there. All right, I just want to melt everything down now and smooth out my pattern. A little bit more rolling there on the marvering pad. And I just want to make sure everything is nice and smooth before I add this white. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing my best to add these white stripes in between each color. And it's hard to see it through the flame, but I just kind of, really instead of looking at the colors, I just made sure that the spacing of the white was even. And if the colors meander around the white, it will still look fabulous. Okay, so once I have all of my white stripes on there, I will just spend a second to smooth the bottom area down, and then go ahead and heat the top up and begin to pull all of the color together at that central point. And I noticed that a little bit of the white overlapped itself So I am going to just pull the color up right here so I don't have that white, too much of a thick white right there. And then I will just go ahead and pull that out one more time, making sure that everything looks nice and even for my final pull. All right, so I'm just going to heat everything up now and start to warm up my punty. Right there at the top is where I'm going to add the punty, of course. And I'm just going to round it out. So whenever you feel comfortable, go ahead and add the punty. All right, now all we have to do is give it a really nice heat and very gently pull it out. And the heat here, you know, with having the white in the center, it doesn't take very long to heat this up. The white really likes to hold that heat for a bit, and that will help all of these transparent colors to pull out because the transparents are much stiffer than the white. So before I actually make the pull, I will start to do a little twisting. And then as I come out, I'm doing more twisting and more pulling and more twisting and pulling. You know the routine. All right, so once we have our cane finished, I'll go ahead and just melt the center to break those into two parts. And there is our cane ready to go. Okay, so for the bead, I am going to use a base of kind of a new color that I have. I've always wanted to try this color. It is the Uranium Yellow from Effetri, and it is really kind of an interesting color. And I'm going to just make sure my mandrel's nice and warm and add this color by spiraling it up the rod as about, I don't know, maybe a little bit more than an inch. I'm going to use a I'm going to use a bead press for this. So I want to make sure that I do not go wider than the press. So I'm going to check my length here real quick. It looks good, and I will continue. So I'm just going to heat everything up, and I always start my beads out this way. I always make sure that my edges look nice and clean and everything is nice and smooth before I continue. So I'll just spend a few seconds to kind of clean everything up. Now, the second color I have here, look at this sparkle. It is called Poolside Dichro from CIM. And this is another color I have never used before, but I thought it was really pretty, and it has those dichro sparkles running all through the cane. And I thought I'd give it a try on this one. And I do like the way it looked. The cane worked really nice. It got a little funky here, but you know, when this happens to you, you just gotta kind of go with the flow and make it work. And once I got the color on, I will go ahead and roll it out again and smooth everything out and get back to that really nice shape that I started with. What was I going to say about this dichro? Yes, the Poolside Dichro, it kind of didn't really show up in the end, so I will use it on another upcoming piece, so maybe we can get a better view of it. But adding this cane really kind of hid all of the dichro. So I'm going to start by adding the Marini cane in a nice spiral all the way down this bead. And when I'm adding cane like this, it is thick, so take your time. It does take time to add the cane. Obviously, I'm not putting it on this fast. I usually have my demos running between 2 and 3 times the speed, so take your time when you add the cane. And where I started the cane, it doesn't look as finished as it does on the end, so I'm going to take a second to heat it up and just give it a slight pull to taper that little end to make it match the other side. And now I'm just going to heat everything up nice and evenly and just get all of that cane fully incorporated into the bead itself. All right, I always like to give it a second or two before I start to roll it on the marvering pad when it's a large size like this. You want to give that glass a little bit of time to soak in the heat and then go ahead and do your rolling. It will be much easier. Okay, so now that looks wonderful. So now I am ready to go ahead and add my first layer of clear all the way around. I will encase this whole bead. And as always, when I do my encasing, I like to use a thicker rod, maybe an 8mm clear rod. This is the Effetri Super Clear, my favorite clear to use, but of course you will use whatever clear you have on hand that you like. And as I go around this bead, I make sure that I overlap every time. And I did add a little bit extra clear to the bottom, so it reflected how much I have on the opposite side. And knowing that this bead will be going into my press, I want to make sure that my edges aren't squared off. I want to smooth them down a little bit. So I will use my marvering pad here just to kind of curve those edges in. All right, now before I start adding any of my Marinis, I do want to give it just a slight shaping in the press. I will go ahead, before I make my press, I will use it as a shaping tool. So I will shape my bead first in the press to get a nice profile, and then I will go ahead and heat it up and do the press. I don't want to press too hard either. Every time I press, sometimes I will get my bead release completely ruined from pressing too hard, so give it a gentle press. And I just want to spend a moment to heat up any kind of chill marks that I have. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a Marini, and as I'm heating my bead, I will also heat up the Marini just a little bit. So when I go to make the stick, it adheres right to the bead. And from there, I will go ahead and start to warm up the Marini so the whole thing is melted down at the top. You just want to make sure that it's being evenly melted down. And then I'll go ahead and use my tungsten pick to try to press a nice little dot in the center, and that brings all of the cane together, making that spiral happen. And from there, I'm going to just gently heat and press until the Marini becomes lower and lower and lower to the bead itself. So I ended up adding 6 Marinis, but I'm only going to show 3 of them because the video just got way too long. So the second sequence here is just kind of showing it all from above and how everything comes together. Now, if you don't get your tungsten pick perfectly in the center, like I did several times, it's still okay. It still will look great. I felt super shaky this day, so I was just happy to get what I got. Now, this final one I'm going to show you guys is a very thick Marini. It's a bigger one, so depending on how thick your slice is will depend on how big the final little spiral disc will be. I'm going to go ahead and just heat everything up nice and evenly, and go ahead and poke down into that top, bringing those spirals perfectly together in the center, hopefully. And then just spend time pressing and pressing down. There's several different ways that you can add Marinis, but this is a really nice, easy way to get a great pattern. Now, at this point, I'm just trying to flatten down everything so when I go to add my clear on top, there's no undercuts. So I'm using the press here to kind of finish flattening and smoothing all of the Marinis out by just a gentle press. Okay, we're getting closer to the end here. I'm going to go ahead and give it another coat of clear to completely encase the whole bead. And when you're encasing a bead that's not perfectly round or like a barrel shape, it can be a little bit more difficult. So just do your best to, add your swipes and overlap the swipes, even if they're not perfectly straight. Just do your best to continue to add and fill in all those gaps as you go. Now, as I finished my stripe or my swipe, I ended up getting a little bit of bead release on the end of my clear rod, so I am casting it off on the mandrel itself to kind of get rid of it without having to use tweezers. That's why there's all that clear there. And so don't worry about that. We're just going to keep moving on. And here I'm just going to use my butter knife to gently pull in the edges so they are flatter against the ends. I want to make sure this will fit really nicely into my marble mold. So I notice that the edges need a little bit of help. So I'm just kind of very gently flattening little areas here and there, trying to get it to meet the same shape as the press. All right, now it's a nice big heat. Make sure your bead press is clean before you do this. And my bead is so much bigger than the press that I couldn't make a full press, so I just very gently pressed on here just to even the whole shape out. And that looks nice. So you could be done here. All you need to do really is to clean up all the chill marks and fire polish the whole bead. But I kind of felt like I needed a little bit more. So here at the end, I am just going to add some Swiss dots here and there. And Swiss dots are just small raised dots in clear to kind of give the eye a little bit more to focus on. I also enjoy the way that it moves the color around these clear dots. All right, I like the way this looks, and right here at the end, I just want to make sure that all of these dots are about halfway melted in, and we'll be done. So I really hope you guys enjoy this fun cane with the Marini. I love the way this turned out. I hope you do too. And on that note, we will see you soon in the dungeon.